"I don't need to agree with it, and I don't need to be comfortable with it," John Travolta once said. "You just have to have the confidence to do something." That quiet belief has guided much of his life, especially in recent years. For decades, the world saw Travolta as effortless charm, personified, the man who danced his way into history and never seemed to lose his smile. But behind that image was a life shaped by endurance, adjustment, and emotional resilience. Now in his 70s, Travolta appears less interested in maintaining an image and more focused on living honestly, even if that honesty is private. His recent choices suggest a man no longer motivated by expectation or external approval. Instead, he seems guided by instinct, family, and inner balance. It is not a dramatic reinvention, but a gradual shift toward autonomy, shaped by experience and reinforced by loss, fame, mystery, and a life under watch. John Travolta's career has always carried an unusual duality. On screen, he embodied confidence, rhythm, and ease. Off screen, he remained guarded, careful about what he shared and what he kept to himself. That contrast turned him into one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures. Public curiosity followed him for nearly 5 decades, fueled by admiration, speculation, and the simple fact that he rarely explained himself. While others used interviews to define their narratives, Travolta let time do the talking. Fame gave him access, but it also demanded restraint. The more visible he became, the more he learned the value of silence. That approach protected him through highs and lows, allowing him to move through shifting eras of Hollywood without constant self-defense. Today, that same restraint defines his later years. Rather than correcting assumptions or chasing relevance, he allows his actions to quietly reflect where he stands. A faith that once offered structure. Travolta's connection to Scientology began when he was just 21, at a time when his career was uncertain and his confidence still forming. He has openly credited Urim with giving him tools that helped him manage fear, pressure, and self-doubt during his rise to fame. For many years, that relationship appeared steady and deeply integrated into his life. Alongside his wife, Kelly Preston, he was seen as part of a close-knit spiritual community that provided structure and support. Their involvement was not performative, but consistent, and for a long time it seemed unshakable. Faith, for Travolta, never, but Travolta's never about public declarations. It was personal and practical, something that existed alongside his career rather than defining it publicly. That distinction matters, because any change in such a long-standing connection would naturally unfold quietly, without formal announcements or dramatic exits. Loss, that reshaped priorities. To understand how John Travolta's life evolved, it is impossible to ignore the weight of loss he has carried. The death of his son, Jet, in 2009 was a tragedy that permanently altered his world. Losing a child changes everything, especially when that loss unfolds under public scrutiny. Grief became not just personal, but visible, analyzed, and misunderstood. Travolta and his family were forced to mourn while protecting dignity and privacy in the harshest circumstances. That experience reshaped how he approached fame, work, and emotional openness. It slowed him down and narrowed his focus to what truly mattered. The loss didn't push him away from life, but it recalibrated it. From that point on, family came first, and everything else became secondary. It was a shift rooted not in philosophy, but in survival and love. Kelly Preston and the quiet after. When Kelly Preston passed away in 2020 after a private battle with breast cancer, Travolta faced another life-altering loss. Their marriage had been a constant in his adult life, a partnership built on shared responsibility, mutual support, and resilience. Kelly was not only his wife, but his emotional anchor through decades of public attention and personal hardship. Her absence left a silence that could not be filled by routine or work. Observers noticed that after her death, Travolta became more inward-focused, more protective of his emotional space. He spoke less, shared selectively, and centered his life around his children. This period marked a turning point, not because of what he said publicly, but because of what he prioritized privately. Grief stripped away anything unnecessary, leaving behind a life built around care, presence, and emotional honesty. Stepping back without making noise. In the years following these losses, people began noticing subtle changes in Travolta's public life. He attended fewer large events, kept his social circle smaller, and appeared less interested in maintaining old expectations. These changes were not announced, explained, or framed as statements. They simply happened. That approach aligns with how Travolta has always navigated personal transitions. Rather than replacing one identity with another, he allowed space to grow naturally. Any shift in belief, routine, or affiliation was handled privately, without confrontation or commentary. This quiet recalibration reflects maturity rather than rebellion. It suggests a man choosing distance where distance feels healthy, not out of conflict, but out of clarity. His life began revolving less around institutions and more around individuals, especially his children. In that sense, stepping back became less about leaving something behind and more about moving forward deliberately. Work without pressure. Professionally, Travolta has not disappeared. Instead, he has adjusted the role work plays in his life. He continues acting, but with a noticeably different energy. Projects are chosen for interest and enjoyment rather than strategic necessity. There is no urgency to prove relevance or reclaim status. Films in recent years reflect that ease, offering him flexibility rather than demand. He also embraces nostalgia on his own terms, occasionally revisiting iconic roles in ways that feel celebratory rather than desperate. These moments are brief, controlled, and rooted in gratitude. They show a man comfortable with his past without being trapped by it. Work has become something that complements his life instead of dominating it. That balance hard won, shaped by experience and loss, and it reflects a deeper understanding of fulfillment beyond achievement. Fatherhood at the center. Today, John Travolta's life is clearly centered on his children. His support of his daughter, Ella's creative journey reflects pride without interference, allowing her to build her own identity. With his son Benjamin, Travolta embraces everyday routines that once might have been overshadowed by work. Ski trips, cooking together, and quiet time at home carry meaning that fame never could. These moments are not shared for attention, but as reflections of gratitude. After losing both a child and a spouse, presence has become sacred. He approaches fatherhood with patience, openness, and emotional honesty, qualities shaped by hardship. Friends describe him as more grounded and emotionally available than in earlier decades. This version of Travolta is less guarded, not because life became easier, but because he learned what truly deserves protection. Redefining identity in later life. At 71, John Travolta appears more comfortable with uncertainty than ever before. He does not chase explanations or correct narratives. He allows curiosity to exist without feeding it. That confidence signals growth. Identity for him is no longer fixed or externally defined. It evolves quietly through choice rather than declaration. Any change in belief, routine, or affiliation unfolds naturally, guided by what feels right in this stage of life. Distance does not necessarily mean rejection, and silence does not mean sikiksi. It simply reflects intention. Travolta's later years show a man choosing peace over performance, authenticity over expectation. That choice, made repeatedly in small ways, has reshaped his life more profoundly at the end than a single public success. Sijimuno Urbachi and Yao Evsi Kiyud. A life still unfolding. John Travolta's story is not about revelation or confession. It is about evolution. The boy who danced his way into global fame grew into a man shaped by grief, responsibility, and reflection. Today, his life is quieter, more deliberate, and more grounded than the image that once defined him. He carries his past without being ruled by it and honors loss without letting it harden him. What comes next remains intentionally undefined, and perhaps that is the point. After decades of scrutiny, expectations, and survival, Travolta seems content letting life unfold on his own terms, not loudly, not defiantly, just honestly. And in that quiet confidence, there is a truth far more powerful than any headline could ever be.